Hello coders, welcome back to another tutorial. Home greetings to those who are joining us for the first time. So today it's a continuation of our Bisky Music backend development with Spring Boot, and we want to focus on the auth service. We want to create a user, verify by email, add a default row to add to general users, and also a row for an artist. So let's get started. So you can open the auth service, and in the auth service so far we don't have anything in this package auth. So we need to add Keycloak dependencies and security dependencies. So I think if you have watched my previous tutorials about Keycloak integration on YouTube, you are now familiar with Keycloak. If you haven't watched that, for you to have a deep knowledge about Keycloak integrations, I explain many things on those tutorials. For in this tutorial, I will just copy things that we already developed so that we can progress very fast. If you want to know step by step, you can watch my previous tutorials. I have full videos with the implementation of Keycloak. So here we need to add security dependency, and the description of that project that you are going to use as a reference is in the description, so you can get it. So here I have to go to the Spring security, to the Spring integration with Bisq, and in this, that's where we are going to copy the dependencies and the code that you are used for integration. So for security dependencies, we are going to use this dependence Keycloak and Spring security dependencies. So just copy from that project, and it's there on GitLab. So we can come back with this, and we can add security here. And there's the other dependence that I want to use, and we want to use Swagger. I have a tutorial for that. You can check also on my videos. I want to use this dependency for Swagger. I don't want to test with Postman. So after doing that, let's get the dependencies. It is downloading dependencies here. So dependencies has been downloaded. We need to add these configurations. Let's go to this service. We need to add these configurations for security and the Swagger also. Then I can add here. I have to say new package. I call it config, and I want to move everything into config. So I have this one, which is the JWT converter. This is used by Keycloak when you are getting rows, and it's just for security. You can get rows from here. And I have Swagger custom config. This is we are going to use to test our REST APIs. We are not using Postman. And we have web security config. And this one, in this web security config, that's where these are the testing. They are let's just remove. We are not using these endpoints. Let's remove this endpoint. And we have this bin for Keycloak. So for a Keycloak, we must have a realm. I will show you how to create a realm. We are going to create a new realm very soon. And the server, this one, we can refactor here. This one is a server URL. So these configs, we already added these configs in our configuration files. on the auth. So let's go to the configuration repo. Here, this is the auth, and we have this configs, the client ID. You can see this Keycloak. These are the configurations that you want to use. But for the realm, we want to use this one called Bisky Music, which is the new realm that you want to use for our application. So let's go to Keycloak and create this realm. So in here, you have to select a new realm. Let's create a new realm, and the realm name is going to be Bisky Music, and I'll create this one. So after we've created a new realm, we must create also a client. So based on what we have here, I want to create this client. I want to use this client, authentication client ID. Let's create that client. And then click next. Don't specify anything here. Just click save. That's okay. We are now have this client. This one, we are going to use it for single sign-on with Keycloak. As I told you before, our microservice are going to do single sign-on using this client ID, which I provided here. So let's go back also to the clients. We want to use this client called admin client. So this admin client is the one that is going to create a user, verify email, get roles for each and every user. And this client is the one that is responsible for creating user or managing the realm data. So we need, on this one, we need to do something. We need to enable client authentication, and we need to assign service account roles. I have a tutorial for this. So after saving this, we need to go to service account services. Here, service account roles, and here we need to add manage users row. So you need to assign a row called manage users. So filter by clients, and the row that you want that is responsible for creating a user, it's manage users. We need to tick this one, and also pick this one, realm admin, so that this row is responsible. This admin is responsible for doing all the admin stuff, get clients, manage groups, manage users, sessions, everything. So we are going to use this one. If you go to credentials, it's generated a client secret, and this is going to be a client secret here. So just copy this client secret, and you can add this client secret here. So after we are done with this, we just click save. Let's come back to this service. So we added our client secret in the admin client. This one is this one, and for the server here, it was here. For the domain, we are going to use this one. This is the domain that we are going to use, and this is going to be our server URL. So we are okay with this, and let me commit this. So remember, this is going to be our realm. We are now have our client secret, and this is the client ID. So we are going to use these details to create a user, to verify email, to get roles. So let's go back to our Spring integration. In this Spring integration, we want to copy this package called Keycloak. Let me copy this one and go back to our auth service. And let me create a new package here called service. And I'll paste that. And after pasting, we are going to have a model errors here. This one, user registration record. So I need to copy also that user registration record. So I can say DTO, a new package called DTO. Window. and let's come back here. This one, user registration record. Let's copy this model. Let's paste it here. And this model, it's going to have a username, email, first name, password, and we want to add a boolean code artist. The either can be artist or not. So we need this one, and let's import this record. So in our service, we are going to also have the same problem in this one, and we need to import that. So by doing this now, in this record, we are sending a user from the REST API, username, email, first name, last name, password, and the boolean of if the user is an artist. So what you want to do now, we want to check here on this. We want to check if it's true. If it's artist, if it's true, we want to assign a raw code artist. We want to assign a raw code artist. So what I can do, I can create, we can assign a raw code artist, and I will refactor everything, and we are going to have an enum of rows. Or let me just do it, new package. And I can just create, let me just create as an interface. And I can say rows, either create an enum or interface. It's okay. I want to create it as an interface. So this one, it's going to be artist. And we are going to have another one, which is if you're not an artist, that one is going to be a listener. The class is going to be a row, sorry. You can assign a row artist, and also an artist can also be a listener. Else, if you are not an artist, maybe you are just a listener of the application, and we can differentiate by that. So by assigning these rows, we must add these rows into our application. So the artist or listener, we must add them on our Keycloak. Let's go back to our Keycloak. In our Keycloak, we can go to room rows, and we can create a new row, and this one is called artist. Like, just add a description: artist will manage music. And we need also a listener. Let's come back again here and create another row, and these are called room rows. Any user can listen to the music. So these are the two roles that we are going to use for now, either an artist or a listener. So we have created this. Let's come back here. So the flow here from this model, which is a user registration, we have user representation, which is for upright from SDK, and we are using this SDK, this Keycloak Admin Client SDK, and we are using version 22.0.4. So this version must match your server. You must match your server that you are running here. So to avoid many errors, so here this user is enabled, and I'm setting the username, the email, first name, last name, email verified, and email verified we are setting to false because we want the user to verify the email so that the user can start to use their account. Then we are setting a password, a credential, and the password is coming from this model. After setting a password, we are adding these credentials, assign it to a user, and this is a user resource. We just use the Keycloak, which is this builder that we added in our bin. This is the builder that we are using. We added a server URL, which is going to be the keycloak.codewithbisky.com, and the realm, which is going to be Bisky Music, and we are using client credentials, and our client ID is the admin client, and the secret is the one that we copied into our application YAML. So if you have that, now this realm, like this user resource, we can now create a user to the Keycloak server. And if it's successful, we want to verify an email here. We want to send email verification to that user so that the user can verify the email. And we want to assign roles because we have to assign roles after we created a user, because when assigning roles, we need to assign to a specific ID. So that's why we are passing a user ID. So if you are creating a user, we don't have an ID. So we need to get an ID of that user first, and then we assign. You can assign a row, and this is going to be a realm mapping row. So this is just the implementation for creating a user. So the next thing, we want to create this user. So let's add a controller for this so that we'll be able to create a user and also to be able to verify the email. So we can come here in this. Then we have this API, and in this API we have the Keycloak user API. We just copy this, and we can come to our auth service, and here we just create a new package called API. And we can paste this. And let's import. We are going to import the Keycloak service that we created, this one. And we import user record. We just create, after a new account creation, we will return a created user. And here is the request to get a logged in user. So you can get your user, and we can delete a user from here. And we have an API to send verification email. So if you haven't received it, maybe after a few minutes, you can send a verification email so that you can verify account. You won't use the application if the account is not verified. We will see the flow on the mobile application development on how we are going to implement this. So after we are done with this, we need another configuration here. We need to enable Swagger. We added this Swagger configuration. So we need to load this bin for Swagger. So what we can do is to come here, and we can go to this application. So we need to enable these packages, and we can to our auth service. and we can remove this duplicate. And here our package name is code with risk. Code this is our package, which is the one that we are going to load all these beans, API services. So everything is okay. We did that because we wanted to also to get the beans for this separate, which is not into our package. So you say org spring doc. If you have a package which is not part of this one, it need to be loaded so that will be part of your project. So after doing this, we can run this application. Let's run the application. So everything ran correctly because as you can see, we added some configurations here in our beans. We added these configurations, and it means these configurations are okay because they are taken from the config server. So it means everything is okay here. So what you want to do next, we want to create a user. So you have to enter this URL, our application running on port 7090, and the path, context path is auth. How do you identify this is the port, and this is the context path? So that's why I said port 7090 auth and the swagger UI.index HTML. So here we need to create a new user, and these are the details that we added. A user can be artist or not. So we will do that. So when user is registering, you have to specify if the user is an artist or not. So what we can do now, we can try this, and the username is code with risk. And the email is code with risk at gmail.com. First name it's Bisc. Last name developer. Password I just said test 81234. And I want to be an artist. But when I send this request, you can see we want to get an email verification. But on our here, if you come here on the room settings, we have this email, but there's no configurations of sending email. So we need to configure this. We need to configure this so that we'll be able to send emails to that user. So let me configure this. So here I added. You can add your email details here. You have to choose an email provider. For me, I'm using Zoho, and this is the host that I'm using. So you can choose your own email provider, and I'm using this port 587. It's from the documentation from Zoho if you want to use this. And for Zoho, I'm just enable start TLS so for it to be able to send emails. And I'm using this custom email of mine, which is afroinside.com. I have this domain, it's mine, so I just configure it. I didn't configure for code with Pisca, but later on I will configure it later. So from email, you just add the email that this email is coming from. So we can just test connection here. We can test connection. So this, I use this domain, which is the correct email. So it's coming from this email, and send an email to this email address. So I will receive this email. So after doing that, it means email is now working correctly for this Bisky room. So I just say save this, and I've saved this email. So what I can do now, I will come back here and I will test to create a user to our room. As you can see here, we don't have any user here in this room. So let's test. As you can see, the new user has been created and we got a success. If you come to this realm, which is Bisky Music, and refresh this, you can see we have this user, which I said code with Bisky, and you are waiting for email verification. And if you go to row mappings, you can see I now have 2 rows, an artist and listener. So is that an artist will be able to upload music, to manage music playlist, and also a row for listener. So an artist is able to listen to the music. So we will use these rows when we are creating other APIs in the music service. So this was the setup of the auth service, and we implemented we implemented the realm integrations and creating a user. So let's meet on another tutorial where we are going to start to work on the database and creating a user in the user services. Salut coders.